There you are. Huh. Been waiting for a while. You made it here well? Didn't have too much trouble. Last time, you remember what you're here for, right? Last time, I read a bit of a horror story down on Earth with you. And this time, I thought, why not invite you into my own little abode? I've made it quite dark to suit the atmosphere. Now, I don't really have much up here. Normally I'd get a campfire going, but this place doesn't keep light very well as the void might expect you to do. I presumed you had some horror stories yourself. I do see that you have one in your hands, but that is quite a big one, isn't it? What is it, bend round? It's kind of a long one, isn't it? Oh, you thought life was a horror story? Well, it depends. Some can be, some cannot. What are you talking about, long man? That is not a horror story, I don't think so. Although, if you see his face, or was it his face? Was it his face that stretched out? Or was it something else? I hope it wasn't something down under that stretched out. I don't remember what exactly stretched out. Was it like candy? I don't remember. Anyway. I do have some horror stories of my own that I've written down, just in case, like you did, you might have a bit too long of a horror story for me to read. Although I can try. I can definitely try. Human mind is a true horror story. Now there you say it. Speaking of a human mind, it can be easily tricked. Which is what horror is mostly about, actually. And we will actually be beginning with one which is a bit of a trick of the mind as well. It's a very, very short one, but I thought it might be a nice one to start with. I don't know if you've heard of The Writing on the Wall by Erland. Ring any bells? Or is it completely new? I'm curious. Because if you are here, you might have a bit of an inkling for horror stories. So I thought, maybe they'll notice. Alright. Let's start, shall we? We will start with The Writing on the Wall. A young boy lay sleeping on his bed when he heard footsteps outside his room. He peeked out of his eyes to see what was happening, when the door swung open to reveal a murderer carrying the corpses of his parents. After silently propping them up on a chair, he wrote something on the wall in the blood of the dead bodies, and he hid under the child's bed. The child got scared beyond belief. He couldn't read the writing on the wall, and he knew the man was under his bed. Like any child, he pretended that he slept through the whole thing and hadn't woken up yet. He lay still as the bodies, quietly hearing the breathing coming from under his bed. An hour passed, and his eyes got adjusted to the darkness. He tried making out the words, but it was a struggle. He gasped when he finally read out the sentence. "I know you're awake." He read as he felt something shift underneath his bed. That's the first one. Hi. There are no latecomers. It's fine. So you see, this one is a fairly tame one, but if you put yourself in the situation, imagine you're a child, and you're just, you just want to sleep. Your parents are very clearly dead, and the one who killed them is right below you. What else are you supposed to do? other than pretend you're not awake. I think running wouldn't get you very far. Knowing he killed your parents, they probably try to run as well. Hmm. Let me see. The next one. Oh, you'd win, would you? You really think you would win from a person who could double team 2 people? I have some doubts. Just a few. Has anyone heard? I think this is a pretty classic one, of the smiling man. I know a lot of people have heard of the smiling dog, but the smiling man, I'm not too sure. Any knowers? Any smilers? This was a bit longer, though not too long. I've been trying to find fairly short horror stories, because long ones, well, they can be really good. It gets tiring to read a very long story, especially when we have very limited time. The Void doesn't like keeping people like you for too long. Eventually you'll be evicted, but that's not for now, so don't worry about it. So you have heard about it a little bit. Alright. Well then, let's get into it, shall we? I am not sure who this is made by, but this is the Smiling Man. Look at me, I'm a smiling man. I'm not gonna kill you though, I promise. Really, I promise. About 5 years ago, I lived downtown in a major city in the US. I've always been... See, the real horror is me stumbling over my tongue. I've always been a night person, so I'd often find myself bored after my roommate, who was decidedly not a night person, went to sleep. To pass the time, I used to go for long walks and spend the time thinking. I spent 4 years like that, walking alone at night, and never once had I had a reason to feel afraid. I always used to joke with my roommate that even the drug dealers in the city were polite, but all of that changed in just a few minutes of one evening. It was a Wednesday, somewhere between 1 and 2 in the morning, and I was walking near a police-patrolled park quite a ways from my apartment. It was a quiet night, even for a weekend, with very little traffic and almost no one on foot. The park, as it was almost night, was completely empty. I turned down a short side street in order to loop back to my apartment when I first noticed him. At the far end of the street, on my side, was the silhouette of a man, dancing. It was a strange dance, similar to a waltz, but he finished each box with an odd forward stride. I guess you could say he was dance walking, headed straight for me. Deciding he was probably drunk, I stepped as close as I could to the road to give him the majority of the sidewalk to pass me by. The closer he got, the more I realized how gracefully he was moving. He was very tall and lanky and wearing an old suit. He danced closer still until I could make out his face. His eyes were open and wild, head tilted back slightly, looking off at the sky. His mouth was formed into a painfully white cartoon of a smile. Between the eyes and the smile, I decided to cross the street before he danced any closer. I took my eyes off him to cross the empty street, and as I reached the other side, I glanced back and then stopped dead in my tracks. He had stopped dancing and was standing 1 foot in the street, perfectly parallel to me. He was facing me, but still looking skyward, smile still wide on his lips. was completely and utterly unnerved by this. I started walking again, but my eyes on the man. He didn't move. Once I had put about a half a block between us, I turned away from him for a moment to watch the sidewalk in front of me. The street and the sidewalk ahead of me were completely empty. Still unnerved, I looked back to where he had been standing to find him gone. For the briefest of moments, I felt relieved, until I noticed him. He had crossed the street and was now slightly crouched down. I couldn't tell for sure the distance because of the shadows, but I was certain that he was still facing me. I had looked away from him for no more than 10 seconds, so it was clear that he had moved fast. I was so shocked that I stood there for some time, staring at him, and then he started moving towards me again. He took giant, exaggerated, tiptoed steps as if he were a cartoon character sneaking up on someone, except he was moving very, very quickly. I'd like to say at this point I ran away, or pulled out my pepper spray, or my cell phone, or anything at all. But I didn't. I just stood there, completely frozen, as the smiling man crept towards me. Then he stopped again, about a car length away from me, still smiling, still looking up at the sky. When I finally found my voice, I blurted out the first thing that came to mind. What I meant to ask was, "What do you want?" in an angry, commanding tone. But what came out as a whimper was a simple, "What?" Regardless of whether or not humans can smell fear, they can certainly hear it. I heard it in my own voice, and that made me only more afraid. But he didn't react to it at all. He just stood there, smiling. And then, after what felt like forever, he turned around very slowly and started dance walking away. Just like that. Not wanting to turn my back to him again, I just watched him go. Until he was far enough away for him to almost be out of sight. And then I realized something. He wasn't moving away anymore, nor was he dancing. I watched in horror as the distant shape of him grew larger and larger. He was coming back my way. And this time, he was running. I ran too. I ran until I was off the side road and back onto a better lit road with sparse traffic. Looking behind me then, it was nowhere to be found. The rest of the way home I kept glancing over my shoulder, always expecting to see his stupid smile, but it was never there. I lived in that city for 6 months after that night, and I never went out on another walk. There was something about his face that always haunted me. He didn't look drunk, he didn't look high. He looked completely and utterly insane. And that is a very, very scary thing to see. Yes, so someone knows it. I've never heard of this one. This is the first time I hear, see, and read this one. I think maybe the image of the smiling man itself, if you go back down to earth and you want to look it up, you can. But it's pretty much as the story describes. Just like a little bit up-tilted, always smiling. It's kind of a unique style. I kind of like it. Now, we have way more stories to go through. I believe the next one was a fairly short one. Let me see. I have like a little tablet of horror stories I can go through. It's average. Yeah. To be fair, I haven't been able to read these stories beforehand, so I cannot tell if one is good or if one is kind of eh. But we'll see. The next one is named The Girl in the Photograph. Maybe we'll get lucky and we'll strike a good one. I'd hope so. Now, for The Girl in the Photograph, I'm also not too sure who wrote this, but it is a fairly short one. One school day, a boy named Tom was sitting at... I started very good. A boy named Tom was sitting at his desk by the window, doing math. Oh, the horror! It was 6 more minutes until school ended. As he was doing his homework, something caught his eye. Looking at the grass outside, he thought he saw a picture. And when school was over, he ran outside fast so that no one else could grab it. He picked it up and smiled. It was an image of the most beautiful girl he had ever seen. She had a dress with tights and red shoes on, and her hand was formed into a peace sign. She was so beautiful that he really wanted to meet her. So he ran all over the school asking if anyone knew her, or if they'd seen her before. But everyone he asked said no, and he felt devastated. When he got home, he asked his older sister if he knew the girl, but unfortunately she also said no. At this point it was very late, so he walked upstairs, placed the picture on his bedside table, and went to sleep. In the middle of the night, Tom was awakened by a tap on his window, like from a fingernail. It startled him, and after the tapping, he heard a giggle. He saw a shadow outside, so he got out of the bed and walked toward it, opened the window and listened for the giggling. By the time he'd reached the glass, it was gone. The next day, he asked his neighbors if they knew the girl, but nobody did. When his mother came home, he even asked her if she knew her, and she said no. Saddened, once more, he went to his room and placed the picture on his desk and fell asleep. Once again, he was awakened by tapping. Taking the picture, he followed the giggling outside, and he walked across the road, when suddenly, he was hit by a car. Dead on impact. The picture lay still in his hands. The driver got out of the car and tried to help the boy, but it was too late. He could only pick up and view the picture he was holding. He saw a cute girl holding up 3 fingers. I kinda like that one. Aside from the truck, the only thing my brain could think was isekai. But that is quite the unique concept. A picture that changes the amount of fingers depending on how many people it has killed. Quite something of a cursed object. So welcome in, welcome in. I see your ship has arrived. You're in the void together with me. Make yourself comfortable. Don't let any food hang around. The void creatures will eat that up a bit too. How do I say this? Ravaging is not the right word for it. But don't feed the void. It will try to feed on you. Now, I was trying to think if I should come up with a horror story myself. But technically, I feel like I don't really need to come up with any horror stories because we are in the void. And as long as you're with me, you are safe. And you are outside of that, I don't know. I haven't explored this place all too much. It's very wide. There's both a lot and nothing here at the same time. It's quite strange. But I guess that's why it has its name. The void. It's pretty much infinite. Speaking of the void, I found something. I have no idea how to pronounce this, but I saw a black hole and I thought, oh, that's me. And I'm gonna read it. I have no idea what it actually says or what the story is about. I haven't read it at all. But it's called God... Hold on, how do I pronounce I think this is German. God's Kugelblitz. I think that is the name. That is a real horror story. Standing in line for the groceries and your mom is like, oh, I forgot something. I'm gonna quickly go get it. Stay by the cards. No. God's Kugelblitz. I hope I am saying this correct because I am sorry anyone who is German. You can try to correct me. My tongue will not be able to say it correctly. Have I heard of the tale of Kusagi Onna? I'm not sure. But basically for this story, the first description or the first word it says is black holes. Magnificent, frightening, and ominous. I feel flattered. For as long as I've been on this earth, I've always gazed at the stars, waiting for humanity to ascend and explore space. Well, after my recent discovery, we shouldn't be calling it space anymore. It's just empty. No mass, no stars, pure emptiness. It all started when I first felt it. A feeling of dread. The feeling that there's something wrong. Very wrong. And now, a perfect night for spotting. At least it was, on April the 18th. It was a special night. The sky was clear, and the recent shortages of electricity cleansed the sky of light pollution. I could finally see the stars as mankind once did when we first discovered the fire and gazed at the light within. It all started this night. This beautiful night soon turned into something unimaginably atrocious. The stars. They disappeared. Now, how exactly do stars disappear into oblivion? The answer is simple. They don't. Stars and other celestial bodies don't just disappear. They don't leave us behind. Here's the problem though. No one was panicking. Not the media, not the scientists, not a single soul on the fading Earth. And hell, I couldn't even find Mars or any other planets nearby. They can't just simply disappear, right? Well, I couldn't believe my eyes. I must have been searching for any signs for a matter of hours, and everyone just proceeded with their lives. They could just plug their brains off and continue on their daily chores. Don't panic yet, or... I know not everyone follows the flow of their daily lives, but still, they don't seem to react to recent disappearances. Some days had passed, but the world didn't notice nor care about our great loss. I, however, did not lose interest in this horrid phenomenon. I kept staring at the sky above until my eyes turned sore and my neck couldn't move a single inch. And now, listen closely. I've got a theory about the disappearance. Everything out there is dark, pure ignorant bliss. What if we are inside a black hole? What if we are what's called the singularity? And what if we got sucked into a black hole without even noticing? I don't know. It sounds crazy if you put it like this. However, we couldn't notice the black hole approaching. Shouldn't we all be dead? disintegrated into a matter of strains and then eventually nothing. But why? Why are we still alive? I'm not sure if my theory has any chance of being correct, and I hope that it isn't. I do. But there is this small chance that I'm right, and it frightens me the most. I've been studying this theory on my own for as far as I'm aware of. Am I turning crazy? Why am I the only one noticing this? And one night, the back of my neck started hurting really bad. A burning sensation entered through my neck and traveled throughout my entire body, and my vision, it was all gone. All I could see was darkness, pure blackness. The thing was, I couldn't feel anything or hear anything as well. It was just me and this void, and this abyss. I've been getting these accidents for a while now. The burning sensation, losing my vision. I don't know it anymore. I don't believe myself anymore. And lately these accidents have been getting worse and worse by the day. At first it only took a few seconds for the symptoms to disappear, but now it takes hours for them to disappear. Moreover, I can hear again when it happens. I can hear water, or something that is supposed to be liquid. I can hear it deep inside of my ear, as if my ear is submerged in it. Sorry for being so paranoid, but I just have to be like this from now on, or I won't be able to live with myself. I awoke to a scraping metallic sound this morning. I woke up and looked around my room for a while, but I couldn't find the source of the scraping. I became deranged, lost in thought, lost, just like all of the stars, celestial bodies and whatnot. It's still dark out there. I haven't seen a single star. The people down here still don't seem to notice as well. I've been searching on various sites, and I've roamed the deep web for months. When I was about to stop searching, and maybe force myself into an asylum for going mad, I found a strange website. I had been searching through various layers of the deep web that night, and stumbled across this particular one. I don't know why I didn't notice it during my last search. The name of the site shouted the answer I needed to prove my sanity. The site had what it seemed an article about a machine called God's Kogelblitz. I did a quick search for the term Kogelblitz, and with this came the results. In theoretical physics, a Kogelblitz is a concentration of heat, light, or radiation so intense that its energy forms an event horizon and becomes self-trapped. Kogelblitz, it means ball lightning in German, self-trapped. I never have researched a Kogelblitz and its properties. I didn't even think about the possibility that it could prove my theory, that I wasn't crazy and still sane. For the first time, a fresh dose of dopamine rushed through my system, and I felt relieved. I can update my theory now and prove it just by using theoretical physics. We aren't the singularity. We're at the very edge of an event horizon. We are almost at the point of no return. It's not too late yet. We can still be saved from this horrible fate. And the stars didn't disappear. Rather, we disappeared from their view. We need to make people aware of this, or we'll end up in a continuous line of molecules until we are turned into pure nothingness after recrossing the event horizon. This black hole is bending our reality somehow. I'm sure more people are researching this, and I'm not the only one anymore. After all, it's been years since the disappearance, and I can't be the only one now. That's impossible. People need to believe us. People need to believe me. I can't let this happen to us. Humanity needs to live and explore the stars. All these visions and sounds I've been hearing for the past years were all caused by this black hole. Others must have heard it by now, right? They may not know the truth yet. They live in ignorance, and I will enlighten them of the horrifying truth of our situation. So if you hear metal scraping, or moving liquid inside of your ear, if you feel a painful and burning sensation crossing your entire body, then you're starting to escape the reality that the black hole created. You will see the stars disappear. You will see a gaping hole. And when you look up at the sky, it will deceive you. It will try to break your mind. You must hold on, at least for a little longer. You must fight this with me, with us. Ending the simulation to temporarily extract specimen B104345. It seems that we've got another one. Cables and needles eject themselves. The green liquid escapes from its pod, and a human body was now visible. Pale and malnourished, but still alive. Is the black hole causing this? Is it because of this energy spike? An entity is holding the thin body of a human. The entity grasps the human's head and pulls it off in a smooth and clean motion. The human's body was being sucked in a hollow entity. All the blood and fluids sucked dry like some exotic juicy fruit. My hydration level is still below 50%. I'll need to continue the job. I've still got 10049 units to terminate. And that's it. I'm not too sure about the ending there. What do you guys think? What do you think about that one? Started as a bit of a real horror story that could technically happen. Because things do get a bit funky around the black hole. Time does not flow in the same way. Everything around you disappears. Time itself eventually ceases to exist. But yeah, more towards the end, it seemed like we were just a person sort of stuck in a containment, and what I assume is everyone on the entire Earth was stuck into a machine. And when you're pulled out, aka when the cables are pulled out and you're released from your pod, everything to you seems like a black hole is consuming it. I think that's the best way that I can interpret this. It's a bit of a unique one. Never heard of this one yet. Although it is... I'm not too sure what the scariest part would be. Actually being in a situation where everything around you is disappearing because of a black hole and there's no escape. Or a sort of Matrix type thing where everyone is just a little piece of candy for other beings, but you don't know that you are. I don't know about that one. I prefer not to be a piece of candy, thank you very much. I think this might be a good segue into the next one, actually. Because then, the one of the black holes sort of ended in Aliens. I have another story here, which is something about game Aliens. I'm not fully sure. How are you guys finding the void, by the way? Not too cold? Not too warm? I wouldn't know why the void was warm. If it's warm, check over your shoulder. Right. The next one. I hope I'm saying this right as well. I have a lot of difficult names in this for some reason. I picked out the best names, of course. The void feels cozy, does it? That's nice. In a sense, with how strong the gravitational pull inside a black hole is, I wouldn't be surprised if someone reset the timeline as we know it. Well, it wouldn't reset the timeline as we know it. The whole thing about a black hole is time for you passes the same, but compared to everything else around you, let me give you a bit of a black hole lore, right? If you fall into a black hole, you will still be alive by the time the universe ends. Fun fact. The universe ends, and you're still alive. It's quite terrifying. It feels so short, but in that time that you die, everything else, everything that you know, that you love, that you know existed, is dead. That's real horror. Cosmic horror. And me being a bit of a black hole. I don't want to know the other side of that, really. I would not enjoy that. The first immortal person. Oh no. Oh. Although if the sun here would explode, it would not form into a black hole. The sun here would just expand, so yeah. To be fair, if there was an immortal human of some kind, first of all, good luck trying to get to a black hole. They're very far away, especially if you don't have equipment. You kind of just float, and I don't know, would be very uncomfortable. But the next story is called Helios. In the early in the early 1990s, a game for the I need to reset my speaking ability. Excuse me. Let me just A game for the DDoS system was released by a developer named Sean Puckett and went by the name Helios. The game was a shareware and not very well known. There was another game very similar to Helios, known as Helios 2. Despite Helios 2 sounding like a sequel, it very much wasn't. What Sean did was split the original Helios into two and sell the latter half as Helios 2 for 24 USD. Oddly, both games work just fine for a Windows 32-bit system. Not much is known about Sean Puckett himself. The only information on him online is very outdated. The Albina Frog Software is his company and his website. The company itself was originally known as Night Sky before being inexplicably renamed to Albina Frog Software. The name Helios is odd. If a player were to start it up, the first screen would be a text backstory as follows. Helios. How to produce a game in 8 days. First off, I know you won't believe my story, and that's alright. You don't have to believe it. I know it happened, and that's good enough for me. Besides, Helios is fun, whether you believe it or not in how it came to be. I'm not the sort of person who likes UFO stories, and I used to scoff at them all. Whitley Strieber, now there's a nutcase, I think to myself. I used to watch Project Blue Book when I was a kid, but that was just TV. I watched Star Trek too. So on May 5th, 1993, UFOs were the farthest thing on my mind. But of course, when you're the least expecting it, wham! Your life gets turned upside down. I usually get to bed around 3 in the morning, and that night was a little stormy, unusual for Florida in May, especially in 1993. A bit of lightning kicked off now and then, the steady hiss of rain, gurgle of the gutters, an occasional car going past, slinging yellowed headlight beams through my window, through my bedroom window. I had just closed my eyes when a low, dull hum started up, very faint and far away. We lived near a small airport, so the throttly growl of a private airplane is something we're used to and rarely take notice of. Even the eerie drone of the blimps is also moored nearby. It's common enough not to warrant a second look. But this was unusual. Private planes, as a rule of thumb, don't fly during storms, or at 3 in the morning. Blimps were certainly well tied down against the gusty wind. So what was this noise? This hum that was growing louder? A police helicopter, maybe? They had always seemed to conduct late night missions in my neighborhood, just when I'm dropping off to sleep. The Major's dog had probably gotten loose again. It was one of the things that I thought might have happened. The light flickering in my window seemed to confirm this. A strong searchlight beam, apparently taking inventory of my front yard. Nothing there, fellas. No dogs, no escaped convicts. It was at this point that fear struck me. The light, I just realized, was green. The most brilliant of green I had ever seen. And no headlight was ever in that color. No searchlight would be green, and so steady. The hum, having gradually gotten louder over the past minute, seemed in a constant volume now, but the tone was changing. Instead of its initial droning pitch, it seemed to be modulating, varying in pitch slightly, and there I was, standing nearby my window, bathed in green light, listening to an otherworldly hum coming from an apparent right overhead. What would you do? It was at... Ooh, that is different. Hold on. I scrolled a little bit too far. Hold on. I'll tell you what I did. I ran like a possessed man, nearly killing myself, tripping over a stack of phone books, in my mad rush to get outside of the other side of the house, to the door, outside, the safety. No way I was going to be entrapped inside this house with that weirdness. Be it spacemen, the CIA, or even maybe the Illuminati, I flung the door open and ran outside, where the garbage can should have been. There was a bright, greenish shaft of light. Standing in the light, swathed in a mist, was a perfect copy of myself, with its hand outstretched, as if to open the door to get out. In the movies, the hero would now do a Gersha... Wow, a what? I don't know how to pronounce this. Groucho Marx routine and see if the image moved the same way he did. Then to make friends, learn a new alien language, draw up a treaty, all that stuff. Instead, I fainted. I fell flat on my face into the weeds. My last thoughts was, there go the movie nights. I don't know how long I was out. Whoever does this. But it was dark when I woke up. No green light, no mirror image, no purpling hum. The door was still open. The garbage cans were in the back where they belonged. The rain had lessened to a light drizzle. The full moon was peeking through the thinning clouds. I stumbled around the soggy yard in the daze. I had a vague suspicion that there would be some sort of alien thing waiting for me in the house, so I really didn't want to go back inside. But the eventual realization that I was wandering around in my front yard in the wee hours in the morning, under a full moon with only my skivvies on made a certain impression on me. So rather than make a big scene and wake the neighbors up, and trying to sound less like a deranged lunatic, which I probably was, and more like a damn frightened victim of a UFO harassment in the skivvies, I peered in all the windows, looking for suspicious green glows. I didn't see anything, and so I crept my way back into the door, slowly, listening carefully. I fired up all the lights at once, with the lights control system. Nothing amiss. Checking the closets. No alien. No alien ambassadors. Looked in the shower. No mutants. I opened all of the kitchen cabinets. No slime, no mold, no super space roaches. Nothing. Everywhere I looked. Zip. I was beginning to relax. Checked the computer room, turned on the computers, made sure all of the drives were okay. Perfect. The data, my latest projects were all safe. Feeling much more relaxed now. The late stress in my system kicked in, and I suddenly got an incredible case of the shakes. My heart began to pound, my knees weak. I sank into the chair, and instantly, right out of it, I leapt. Like an 800-volt cat. I always leave my chair tucked under the desk, but it had been in the middle of the room when I came in. I grabbed the nearest blunt object, my CVR remote, and scanned the room intently. I don't know what I'd planned to do with the remote, but there it was, and whatever happened to me, I wanted to die with the weapon in my hand. I kicked the chair away and whirled into a corner. I stood still for a moment, listening, looking, but nothing moved. Nothing happened. The bright eye of my computer, it's there. Hold on. The bright light of the computer monitor patiently glared at me, almost as if seeming to say, "What are you up to?" I warily wandered over to the cabinets, hooking my foot under the door. I opened each one. Junk, just like I'd left it. The shelves of books appeared to be undisturbed. My desk drawers I opened with a back scratcher at 3 places. A mismatch of pinouts and faxes, nothing. I looked under the desk. Dust bunnies. Hell, I felt like an idiot. All this paranoia because I left my chair out for once in my life. I sat heavily into it. I wheeled up to my computer keyboard. In the cracks between the keys were traces of green fluid. On the disk drive handle. More. I bolted to my feet again, searching the whole house again with a flashlight this time, checking every nook and cranny. Nothing. Nowhere. Just traces of green slime on the keyboard and disk drive. Okay, so this UFO roared up to my house at 3 in the morning in the middle of a thunderstorm, scared me till I fainted, and now the only evidence I had was something rapidly evaporating green glob on my computer. And what's this? A new directory on the hard drive. Collection of files in it. Right, sure. The aliens brought me some files. Probably interstellar shareware, right? I copied the files onto the disk and deleted them from the hard drive, and did a complete system check, a virus check, a disk integrity check, everything, and nothing was wrong. I went over to the testing machine and punched up the files on the disk. No readme. Why was I not surprised? But there were a bunch of source files and one exe file. I don't mind running strange things on the test machine. That's what it was for. So I fired it up. And what I got was very similar to what you have now before you in Helios. An incredibly strange and surreal game. No scoring, no words, just some symbols. showed it to some friends, and told them where I got it. They quite disbelieved my story, but they did like the game, and had never seen it or anything like it before. Someone suggested I upload it to a board, so I decided to, but not until I tagged on the title screen, and some good old-fashioned American entrepreneur spirit, I divided the game into 2 segments. And now you have the first half. You can order the second half directly from me. The address is under the form. And that is how you got your copy of Helios. I made up the name and the title screen. It's Van Gogh, of course, and it seemed appropriate. Yes, it is indeed time to have nightmares. When the player would continue, the next screen would be of a tentacle, made of a decreasingly smaller cyan spheres on top of an interlaced web of something grey. Surrounding the tentacle would be a color wheel made of spheres in polygonal patterns of 9 colors: red, orange, yellow, light green, dark green, cyan, blue, purple, and pink. Surrounding the spheres would be 9 inexplicable symbols, each to their respective color sphere. Each symbol would be different, making up a total of 9 different symbols, and the background of the spheres would be descending rings, almost like surface mine. When a player would control the tentacle, moving it around as if the biggest cyan sphere were pinned to the web, the player can move the tip of the tentacle in the direction of one of the 9 colored spheres with a mouse. If the player clicks in the direction, one of the spheres and the symbol near that sphere changes, turning into the symbol of the sphere to the counterclockwise direction of it. It turns out that this menu is actually a screen to enter a code, the spheres themselves being a level select. To unlock the web of spheres, you must play the game. To select the level, the player must point the tentacle towards one of the colored spheres and hit enter. The screen would then change to an almost balloon-like sphere. The player would then use the arrow keys to propel the balloon forward. The method of propulsion is almost as if a rocket in space. The balloon blows out some sort of white gas to push its shield. The physics are very much like space as well, using the laws of inertia, meaning that if you propel the ball forward, then it won't stop until it hits something, and then it only bounces off of it. Each level is different. Some mazes are simple, other areas are filled with enemies that either stick to the wall and shoot some object at you, or float around and target you. One thing similar between these levels, however, is the extreme tiling, as in the same object or background is repeating again and again. And these tiles make up the walls and the floors of the level. The objective of the game is to go around each level and collect some kind of blue gems. And when the player collects all of the gems, a small flag, the level symbol, appears. The player then moves over to the flag, and when they go over with it to the balloon, it turns into one of the symbols from the main menu. This symbol is part of the sequence of the web on the spheres, and when you enter it into the colored sphere and the rest of the completed levels, the final screen appears. And well, the screen is indescribable, so the only way it can be shown is through a photo format. The screen isn't still. Usually a small, almost sinister sounding alien drone can be heard in the background, while the small cyan balls float towards the center. This is Helios. No one knows whether aliens actually made this game or not. No one knows that what any of this is supposed to mean. The only person who has a clue about the game is Sean Pocket. But no one knows this guy, or if he even still exists. Any way of contacting him is extremely out of date, whether through the game's address or through the outdated albino frog website. There's only one question remaining. Are we alone? No, we're not, because I'm here. Hi. Welcome in. Oh, damn. It's been an hour already. Hi. Welcome in. Make yourself comfortable. Oh. I need to have a little bit of a sippy. The void is not moist. I cannot drink void air. Oh yes, I can hear and both see you very, very well. But I will most likely be focusing on reading when I am actually reading the story to keep the thing going. In between we can chat a little bit. What do you guys think of that one? Would you play the alien game? It's 2 AM. Alright. Have a good day. You can go back into the ship the way you came. Do be careful on your way out, alright? The void is quite big. And yes, you can tell me jokes. However, maybe this time you can try saying something more disturbing, more creepy. You know, there's like 2-sentence horror stories. Tell me the entire FNAF storyline. Well, I actually know someone who knows the entire FNAF story out of his head. I can't. I wish I could flex like that. I can't. Yes, 2-sentence horror stories. Does anyone know something like that? That is possible. I've been trying to learn it. If you look up Wendigoon, right? He has the best explanation of the FNAF storyline. If you memorize that, oh, he is very much human. Or well, human enough. Alright. But yes, let me look up actually. Maybe I can find a 2-sentence horror story. Hey. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no, the void. Hello? Hello? Oh, so... I thought the void swallowed you for a second. Okay, no, you're all good. I was going to look up 2-sentence horror stories. That was the real scare for me. Seeing you guys like almost disappear, I had to pull you back out. Be careful where you step. The void is very easy to get lost in, alright? Oh, retail. That's where the real horror begins. Couldn't take a bite of my food after tonight's dinner. The smell of my relatives' rotten bodies completely helped me lose my appetite. That is a very good 2-sentence horror story, yes. That is a good example. Oh, you don't want to be one with the void, believe me. I'm pretty much one with it. It's very unpleasant. Let me see. 2-sentence horror stories. And yes, if you're wondering, the void does have Wi-Fi. And no, I am not giving you the Wi-Fi password. It's mine. My tablet is quite loud, isn't it? This probably counts as the void, I suppose. Although that makes me think of a very specific game. I already forgot about it. Something with a spider. I don't really remember it anymore. Let's see. Can I find a 2-sentence horror story? Yes, you don't get the void Wi-Fi password. This is mine. I don't want to pay more than I need to, okay? It's quite expensive. Oh. Ooh. 2-sentence horror story. This is a really short one. There was a picture of me on my phone, of me sleeping. I live alone. Imagine that. Imagine you wake up. First thing you see when you open your phone, picture of you from all the way across the room. Would not enjoy that. Would not enjoy that at all. Ooh. Oh, you've worked in retail yourself. I pray for your soul. I never want to work there. I can't work there. That wouldn't be very safe for me or for other people. A black hole working in retail, but still. Ooh. I'm seeing some very good, like 2-sentence or very short horror stories. You guys are good at that. If you're writing it yourself or finding it somewhere, do let me know. The horror story I'm typing right now is called The Shapeshifter. I was going to say something, but I'll be good. I do believe I still have one more story that I had ready. It's sort of the same length, I think, as the Smiling Man. Oh, you're typing it right now? Okay. I'll hear it when I'm done with this one then. Now the next one is named Just a Bug Bite. My mother claimed something bitter about a week ago. She complained of difficulty breathing and said that she couldn't feel her left side from the midsection down. As evidence, she showed us her left thigh, and sure enough, there was a red, inflamed patch of flesh. It looked like the aftermath of a mosquito bite, except several times larger. We thought that it must have been a spider that got her while she slept. But since nearly a week had passed, and we weren't exactly rich, we decided against her seeing a doctor. We couldn't afford paying the medical bill for something that would clear up within a few days. So we were sure it would clear up. It was only a little bug bite after all, and it was our mistake. When we woke today, Mother was crying. She said the numb sensation of her side had indeed gone, but it had been replaced by burning anguish. Her breath hitched, and was obviously labored. We inspected her thigh when we were startled to find that the large mosquito bite had erupted across her side. A single mark had turned into several sickly, inflamed mounds that had peeled and erupted pus. She claimed it burned, and we certainly believed her. It was time to consult a doctor. My father told me he would drive her to the nearest neighborhood clinic. For my part, I departed from my day's summer session classes. My mother's frightening condition danced somewhere in the back of my mind for the rest of the day, but I didn't dwell on it. Summer classes were coming to an end, and final exams were in a few days away. Friends were planning a trip on the beach, and the small pain in my breaths nagged me. I hoped I wasn't developing a cold. I was driving back home when I got a call. It was my father. He was in hysterics. Apparently the doctor at the clinic had taken one look at my mother's condition and urged her to a medical room. So my father and my mother had gone and waited a little more. My mother was finally allowed to see a doctor, and that's where it all went downhill. He took one look at her and left the room. My father and my mother were left in that room, confused, when nurses entered. They drew some blood from my heaving mother. Others ushered my father out of the room, blowing aside his questions and asking him to wait in the waiting area. He did, but when he waited, he had time to see a dozen police officers rushing into the hospital, past the waiting area, and into the direction of the room that held my mother. He told me this last part in a choking sob. He heard gunshots. That's when I heard him scream. That made me jump in the car seat, my hands taut and white against the steering wheel, my eyes bulging. I realized I wasn't breathing. On the other end of the line, I heard something clatter. It was probably the phone hitting the floor, and then they were arguing, yelling voices, authoritarian voices. It was one weeping voice. My father. It was the only time I'd ever heard him like that, blubbering something out, and I'll be honest, I was disgusted. I wasn't used to such a weak father. I was used to the steel old man that he had come to represent. I guess I was confused. And when I heard gunshots on the other end, I guess it didn't seem real. I turned off my cell phone and continued the drive home. I was numb, confused, and disbelieving. I got home. Only by then. It wasn't really home anymore. I found the block closed off, police guards cornered off the streets, people in biohazard suits were coming in and out of my house. In my befuddled state, I thought it looked kind of like something of the movies. Something like Quarantine. It seemed pretty funny, to be honest. It was really funny, until I saw them wheel out a body under a tarp, and realized from the single exposed shoe that it was my younger brother. I drove home then. I drove until I was out of the town, far out of the town, and I realized it might be stupid to keep on driving. Wherever I was going, I'd escaped out of sheer luck. They tried to put up a net around us, but I'd only escaped because of my college schedule. So what is it? I've seen enough scary movies to guess. I'm infected. But with who the fuck knows with what? My lungs are slowly burning, and there's a strange bulge on my back. I haven't checked it out yet, but I bet everything in my pockets, which comes out to about $25, that it's a red mark. A red mark that resembles a large mosquito bite. What is it? Am I going to die? Well, it was serious enough that they offed my mom and dad, and even my bro to toot. Whatever I've got, I figure it must be something serious. I wonder what it takes to infect others. A cough? A touch? A bite? I'll find out tomorrow. And I walked until I could hitch a ride. Then I walked some more. I stopped at a motel and paid cash. I tried to just sleep during the night, but I couldn't. I kept seeing my brother's shoe sticking out from under a tarp. That shoe. So I opened my laptop and decided to type this out instead. They took everything from me. I'm going to die. They didn't have to do what they did. They could have just told us that we were a danger to others. They didn't have to shoot my mother, my father. I'm going to take as much as I can before I go, tomorrow. I'll spend my days in shaking hands. I'll go to convenience stores and touch the food. Maybe I'll cough in it. I'll lick the public water fountains. I'll do whatever it takes to bring you with me. So tomorrow, please shake my hand. If someone bites you, don't worry about it. It's nothing. Surely it can be worse than a bug bite. That is the story. I am so curious on what it actually is, but that is part of the horror. God damn it. Alright. What did you guys think of that one? Right. You were saying that there was something named the Shapeshifter, right? Let me check. Ooh, one of you has to go. Alright, no worries about that. We will be rounding off soon anyway, so unless you have somewhere to be very, very soon, you might be able to enter the, I was gonna say containment because of this horror thing, but no. You might be able to enter the larger ship together with everyone else. Yes, the mystery of this one is quite interesting. It makes you think. Any story, for me personally, any story that leaves unanswered questions are my favorite. Kind of like Arrival, actually. It has a lot of unanswered questions at the, pretty much unanswered until the very end. It's like that. Those are the kind of stories that I like the most. This one though, I don't feel it's quite horror as much. I'm not too sure. It feels horror because it's something that feels like could genuinely happen. And then the betrayal for everything that comes with it. Along with probably if you are a bystander and you see that message posted online, and then somewhere in the next few weeks you see a lot of people being infected with something. Bringing back the COVID days, are we? Been sending 2-cent horror creations. Ooh. Oh, you used to make them a while back. Well, that's interesting. Hold on. I'm gonna read out a few that you guys have been handing me. See, that is a good one. Ever since I went deaf, I always turned the lights on when they were off. Not because I was scared of the dark, but because I was scared of whatever was turning them off. See, those are like the short ones, which I kind of really like. Ooh, another one that you guys have provided me. The smell of gunpowder filled my nose, and I could barely hear the radio over the ringing of my ears. But at least my family went quickly. Hold on. Is that more like... That one, I think my brain isn't processing very well. My daughter told me there was a monster under the bed and told her to go back to sleep. If only it did its job. Huh? Wait, I think my brain processing power is a bit... Did the second part? I don't think it did. Or maybe it did and I'm blind. You know what? I think the void took it. Which... maybe that is a good sign. If the void is starting to take messages away. It did try to swallow you, like, once already. We need to keep you safe. Oh, we have found a cure. Please go to your nearest medical outpost. Oh. Oh. Okay, I see. Sorry. This was meant to be a relaxing stream and then I just all over the place. Those were about the stories that I had. Ben Drowned might be a bit too long for me to read, sadly. It is a very classic one though. If you haven't, by any chance, if you have not heard of it, might be a nice thing to look it up on yourself. for now though. I will say, it was nice seeing you here again, and I would like to do this again. Maybe in a different place though. We have been on Earth once. I think maybe twice, actually. One time we went camping, the other time we sat not in a love hotel. I guess, well, I'll go in a love hotel when we're reading 50 Shades of Grey, shall we? But no. Now we're in the void. Next time, who knows where we are? If I'm really doing 50 Shades of Grey, I am sorry. That idea got into my head, and I don't think I can get rid of it. It's stuck there. Alright. If you are all ready and willing, I will have to say goodbye to you. You see, the void does not take well to living, soul-having, fleshy beings. You know what happened just a moment ago. It already tried to grab you. So I will have to show you the door, sadly. But we can obviously do this again another time. Just maybe not in here. As atmospheric as it is, your safety is important. So, if you will, please do step very carefully back into the ship, and I will see you again, alright? Oh well, if you are on hallucination and then you are in my mind, then welcome. There are many in here like that, but still, I recommend you join the others, even if you're only joking around. Right? I will wish you a good day or night. I have no idea which time of day it is, but it is probably, for a lot of people, fairly late, as someone said just before. And I will see you again, hopefully in a safer place. Alright? Have a good trip. Bye bye.